Republic of South Africa grant adolescents legal right to participate in clinical trials of HIV treatment, prophylaxis without parental consent, implementation is through normal means hours with the right to clarify safe. Adolescents bear the brunt of AIDS epidemic in much of sub-Saharan African studies group and critical. We argue that it's ethically justifiable to enroll adolescents in surgeries without seeking parental consent for adolescent participation in HIV research. Subway AIDS and anti-adolescents in South Africa are currently not allowed to use medical treatment. Research, Kareem. In South Africa, girls as young as 12 years of age can access HIV testing, contraception, termination of pregnancy, other healthcare without parental consent. Current legal legislation concludes their inclusion in research without parental consent. Subway B's the harms. HIV infection continues to pose massive health risks in South Africa. Not only are infection rates dangerous to have young women disproportionately bear the brunt of new cases. Harrison. Significant HIV incidents among young women in South Africa represents this is a significant important health spread in South Africa, the country with the world's highest HIV positive population. HIV infections are among young girls are 8 times higher than among men of the same age. Endemic sexism explains the disproportionate infection rates. Young women tend to be at a power disadvantage and cannot access HIV prevention methods. Their target almost exclusively at men. Harrison. Central picture of HIV in South Africa underscores the way the gender relation structure patterns of HIV risk and unequal gender relations are evident in women's sexual partnerships with older men and limited negotiating power within relationships, households, and the epidemic of gender-based violence. South Africa large discrepancies in the HIV rate among young women and men of the same age, specifically pointing to young women's partnerships with older men who are more likely to be HIV infected. Also, young women in such relationships may be less able to negotiate safe sex due to men's greater relationship power and may experience violence for existing economies. Women who experience sexual violence or increased risk for HIV, thus gender equality drives HIV epidemic. The exponential nature of some sexual relationships and lack of access to care prevent adolescent girls from practicing safe sex. New treatment options that reduce their infection rates are on the horizon, but virtually no information exists on the efficacy of these treatments in adolescent girls. That lack of information keeps these products off the market for adolescents. Cream. Reducing sexual transmission of HIV is a major challenge despite the improvement in HIV prevention through condom prevention, treatment of STIs, HIV counseling, risk reduction counseling, medical bail circumcision. These are insufficient and inadequate for young girls. Many young girls are often unable to remain abstinent or negotiate mutually monogamous relationship or rely on consistent condom use and have little or no option to reduce their risk of acquiring HIV and spread the sexual transmission of HIV. In young girls need new technology. The need for new technologies on ambiguous clinical trials testing antiretrovirals, pre-exposure practices, or topical vaginal microbites provide a new to help the HIV prevention technologies for women are possible. Wilson safety and tolerability of ARVs and PrEP and topical microbiome trials have been established for those 18 years old. This information not for girls below 18 despite their vulnerability to infection. This important group has been excluded from clinical trials assessing biomedical intervention because significant regulatory, ethical, and sociocultural community level challenges, including young girls at age of 18 clinical trials. HIV provides an opportunity to establish product safety, tolerability, with understanding like sexually biomedical intervention. This is importantly needed for young girls who are at risk of high HIV. Skip the next card. Some point C solidly removing repair parental consent barriers essential to including women in HIV trials, women in clinical trials that receive preventative counseling, access to treatment, and opportunity to resist sexist power dynamics. Talk. All participants in HIV prevention trials have a reduced risk of HIV infection due to the intervention of preventative counseling. The age of consent for adolescent participation in clinical trials without obtaining legal guardian consent is a major factor for their complication. There are involvement in HIV prevention trials, other healthcare research, the requirement for parental consent that often accompanies the ethical process. In most studies, is not times to surmountable barrier distance of young women that require this type of intervention from securing access to these potential preventative options. Adolescents can and should be capable of giving informed consent without parental approval. Adolescents will offer treatment for fear that parents will be notified. Absolute autonomy is required for their participation. Safe. And HIV positive test result often carries negative connotation, stigma, discrimination, violence, and social ostracism are experienced by those who disclose their status to their parents. Adolescents are not willing to participate if their HIV status is disclosed to their parents. Adolescent participants who enroll such studies on legitimate expectations their confidentiality will be restricted, requiring this participation to seek parental consent for the participation would effectively nullify this obligation to ensure confidentiality. Step 1 D is the impact calculus, deciding what impacts variables have the honor decision of whether to be analysis of medical autonomy is fundamentally epistemological task which involves sorting and arguments and methodologies into various categories of normative and non-normative language. However, this process not only to one the way we understand the relationship between normativity and the particular kinds of impacts, which is our fundamental political commitments, because all knowledge derived from particular perspective, because we understand what counts as impacts determines our disposition to different viewpoints. The perspective of the nature of knowing of knowledge commits us to an epistemology that seeks to include marginalized voices. Comment. There's only perspective on seeing, only perspective on knowing. The more eyes different becomes or one thing, the more complete our concept of the thing will be. Nietzsche warns us to beware of traditional interpretation of objectivity as distinct contemplation. The goal is intercontemplation presupposes conceptual function and contradictory concepts. Furthermore, requires us to posit a disembodied, disinterested knowing subject knowledge is the function of the disembodied of the embodied expression, perception of an embodied point of view that hover distinctly over the world. Nietzsche's reconstituted notion of the object encourages maximal expression of effective investment in the world world. Thus, we should prioritize impacts that concern the general ways axis of gender-based power dynamics affect the lived experiences of women. For 2 reasons. First, discussion of rights and equality give realistic moral weight when they attend to the traditionally invisible inequalities of marginalized women. Schwartzman. I advocate a feminist methodology that begins by examining the lives and experiences and interests of women. Feminist epistemology it's not anti-individualist, nor does it issue abstractions. Pay careful attention to the way that individual embedded social conscience often care by domination. Feminism employs such conscious rights, equality, liberty, the ways that emphasize women's perspectives, what women need to free from oppressive structures. Male domination can be articulated through reforming these ideas and using them to avoid the pitfalls of liberals. A liberal approach that attempts to abstract from the relations of power and focus only on individuals and inadequate. Thus, analysis of social power must supplement discussion of rights of autonomy, and these contexts must be situated with a more radical critique of the one provided by liberals. Second, conway must include knowledge derived from the standpoint of the oppressed in order to interpret the perspectivality of dominant discourse. The importance of including discourse of women specifically comes from the oppression that have suffered they which situates their perspectives in opposition to dominant discourse of gender. This Conway. Here, partiality stands as the sole term of objectivity. There exists no verifiable epistemic relationship between objectivity and standpoints informed by a position of exclusion, oppression, or victimage. All perspectives are partial. All standpoints are situated, including those feminist theories, political agenda. Postmodern feminists thus assigns to subjugated standpoints of political preference or priority. Some subjugated standpoints may be immediate revealing, especially since they have discounted for so long. They may prove especially useful in coming to understand the political psychological mechanisms whereby patriarchy discounts the radically situated knowledge of others while claiming for its own knowledge and epistemic privilege. It divorces objectivity from partiality. Standpoints of subjugated are savvy to the models of denial through oppression, forgetting and disappearing acts or ways of nowhere claiming to while claiming to see comprehensively feminist theories who subscribe to heroism agenda must therefore resist the temptation to claim subjugated standpoints. The same type of privilege that patriarchy claims for itself to subjugate standpoint may shed new light on the ways of the oppressor, but to no way renders superfluous or redundant finds the standpoint of the oppressor, because neither standpoint fully compromises the other. The aggregation of the two would move both parties for a third party closer to objective understanding of the world, thus affirmed. I didn't read obviously anything under the Conway, so no under review.
Cool.
And neither of the two Pomfret cards.
Yeah.
But I said stick.
Nice. Alright, ready?
Mm-hmm.
Alright, so both your warrants for why we look to women seem like they'd apply to other groups. Why do you say they only apply to
Okay, so my standard is not impact exclusive, but it just gives two reasons specifically why, when looking at epistemology that's informed based on knowledge and experience, like we should account gender as like the priority under my framework. So you can read other offense about oppression as long as you give as long as you justify as to why we should focus on
how
those
would we weigh? Would
groups.
it be like strength of link?
Yeah, I mean like.
Well, are you going to come back in the next speech and extend like the Schwartzman card and the Conway card as reasons to prefer the oppression of women?
I mean, those are the functions of the card, but if you do weighing analysis,
no, I mean, like, can you show me the exact warrants where it talks about gender equality as opposed to like just oppression?
Okay,
I would get the subjugated viewpoints, but the gender
the first Conway card just talks about how we need to include people's like perspectives. In order to have epistemology, we need to include different experiences to understand. This means that you can link different like types of oppressed
groups.
That's
not women specific.
So what I'm saying is, then I give two reasons why like I prefer when the judge should prioritize impacts.
Right. So I want you to show me exactly where in the card it talks about gender, because I understand I can link other impacts.
In the Schwartzman card?
In both the Schwartzman and the second card.
Yeah, for sure. But I just want to be clear. You can.
No, yeah, I understand. It's not like a theory thing.
Okay, cool. So the first, this Schwartzman card, the first sentence, I advocate a feminist methodology that begins by examining the lives, experiences, and interests of women. This feminist methodology is not anti-individualist, nor does it eschew abstract.
Right, I don't want you to read me the whole card. I just want you to show me exactly where it says that feminism comes first, or is the root cause, or has something that precludes other kinds of oppression.
So this Schwartzman card specifically is just talking about how we can free women from domination, and it's specifically talking about.
So it seems to be a reason why feminism would like your advocacy links under your framework, but it doesn't seem to be a reason to prefer feminist impacts under your framework. So
so both of them give reasons as to why we can hold like the dominant groups who are leading this like epistemology discussion right now accountable by bringing like this feminist discourse into the round. I'm specifically saying you can link other types of oppression arguments, and we would weigh. We would weigh in other ways besides the Conway and the Schwartzman cards.
Sure. Right? Okay, cool. Let's look at the advocacy. In the status quo, is it illegal for the girls to participate in this study, or do they just need parental consent?
They need parental consent.
Alright, but it's legal for minors to participate in this study?
Yes, they need parental consent though.
So currently, are there any minors participating in this study?
If they have parental consent, but my evidence is showing that right now it hasn't been tested on enough girls under 18 for it to be on the market.
How do we know that like it's going to be safe for girls under 18?
Okay, so we can look at all the solvency evidence. So if you go under solvency, first, the DeCaw card talks about how specifically people who would be involved in these.
Alright, it's fine. I'm just going to throw some stuff in. Yep. We're not taking flashing for proof, right? aren't the girls allowed to participate in the trial?
No. What it is right now is that they need parental consent. Then
No, I mean, why is parental consent obstructed?
Because right now there's a huge stigma around HIV/AIDS in South Africa, and if girls have to tell their parents, they're not going to tell their parents because they don't want to reveal their HIV status to their parents. That's coming out of the last SINC card.
Cool.
And then that card also talks about how participation without parental consent would remain confidential.
It's like a feminist standpoint, right?
I'm talking about the importance of including people's perspectives in epistemology, and then I'm talking specifically about why we need feminist viewpoints in epistemology.
Okay. Minute 40 left. I'll make a speech doc for you.
What?
I'll make a speech doc for you.
Yeah, we just reply to the email chain.
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I need to get it in the right order. One sec. Just naming it. Alright, I don't know if we'll get to all this, but hopefully.
Okay.
Set. Alright. So the order is going to be, first it's going to be like overview to the case, but it's kind of like,
I haven't gotten it yet.
okay, cool. So it's going to be overview to the AC, then,
Actually, no. You might have just replied and not
yeah,
She
I
just replied.
do you want me to, okay. So the order's going to be on case, but it's like very long positions on case, so you might want to flow it on like a different piece of paper, and I'll tell you when I'm doing comparison on the AC. Okay.
Do you want it off or on?
Well, it's case turns, but I don't think it'll like fit on the AC flow.
Oh, I can make room.
All right, cool. Then do there. And then it's gonna be NC, then DA.
Okay, case, NCDA. Alright, sounds good to me.
Ready?
Yep.
First, HIV trials in Africa failed for multiple reasons. They hurt women by enabling prostitution and encouraging women to sell their uteruses to science in exchange for the study side by McNeil. The trial had to be stopped. Women were not using the gel pills, although they claimed they will. 70% of women actually had no tenaf over them. Being studied out, even though 90% claimed they were taking the pills. One gave her from working as a prostitute waiting women were robust with rumors that the drugs cause liver cancer and fertility, that the foreign scientists were secretly spreading HIV. Many wanted to stay in the trial because it offered free monthly gynecological exams. Also, they were paid $10 to $15 per visit. Wages are less than 5%, $5 per day. This is also terminal defects because if women don't take the pills, there's no benefit to them. Then, you link because Big Pharma uses South African clinical trial patient to promote its neoliberal agenda. Fauci won. International pharmaceutical companies that experiment with the lives of South African patients with tests that conducted in an unethical manner. The report is focused on South Africa. Widespread poverty and lack of access to healthcare makes it easy for companies to recruit also these drug companies to exploit this clinical trial business in South Africa is valued at $329 million. Given the increasing presence of drug companies in countries with poverty and illiteracy, the potential human rights violation is high. Placebo trials, such as clinical trials, linked specifically because they harm those who don't get the drug. Fauci too. The major problem is placebo-controlled trials. This means that some patients don't actually get treatment. The United States and European countries have been trying the Declaration of Helsinki. These countries' medical authorities are less likely to approve placebo trials due to ethical concerns. Drug companies no longer need to comply with international guidelines. Trials conducted outside the U.S. European authorities accept unethical trials. The use of South African research and Western agendas exemplifies neocolonialism and existential risk and leads to structural violence against the South African people in Nkrumah. The neocolonialism represents imperialism as final, perhaps the most dangerous state actions of neocolonialism that the state, which is subject to, in theory, independence in reality, its economic system, but direct from the outside here, result in neocolonialism of foreign capitals used for exploitation, investment, and neocolonialism increases rather than decreases the gap between rich and poor countries in the world. The state of the group of neocolonialism is not the master of its own destiny, which makes neocolonialism a serious threat that will peace prevent either of the great power graphs from threatening each other with world war and military conflict because has been confined to limited wars for these neocolonialism is a breeding ground. The multiplication of smaller limited wars can only have one, and world war and the terrible consequences of nuclear conflict. Neocolonialism is also the worst form of imperialism for those who suffer from it. It means exploitation without redress. Neocolonialism is an attempt to export the social conflict of capitalist countries. The temporary success of policy can be seen in the widening gap between richer and poor countries. This turns the AC because it specifically talks about how we are exploiting these people and we're depriving their lives of any meaning by making them poor and also by pawning off all of our issues and our social conflicts on them. Then, skip the next one. Then, next. The abstract standpoint inherently legitimates the gender duality, defining women as distinct social and biological group within certain characteristics. The act defines the group into male and female. To be clear, the link is not based on the role of the ballot argument. She makes this really clear that like the role of the ballot argument is like all types of oppression. The link is specifically based on like the biological evidence that it provides at the top about how like men are being benefited by the HIV studies, but women are being studied by the HIV studies. So it's not based on the way that she weighs off, it's based on the way that she actually conceptualizes femininity within the context of the AC offense. Then Ferguson 91. A feminist standpoint entails a world divided between male and female. Deconstruction of gender entails stepping back from opposition to male and female in order to reject the dualism. The dividing category conceptually, biologically, or innately the category of women's experience calls for them to notion what person's experience is counter fundamental. Realizing the foundation they seek may not apply to all women or exclude all men. Call for respect for differences among women. Deconstruction of gender refuses to be corralled. Categories of male and female. Deconstruction is call for an opposition to sexual dualism itself in the name of the multiplicity of sexual and erect voices. And this exclusion is dangerous. Gender identification beyond the binary or privatized and problematizes marginalization prohibits any tangible solution to gender discrimination. Hope 2. We're looking at a biological sex and gender in all the wrong ways. We need to raise the binary gender system entirely. A goal capable of achieving existing binary gender makes it impossible to determine what people may feel more at home in the body they were born in. If they were actually from labels, people would know what physical alteration we taught them as a body you want to. This dictates this person activities you can engage in, have a living life. Get more acceptance for transgender folks doing away with labels would solve misogyny. The biological spectrum is much more varied than man and women. Natural variation of sex change within many different genders. If we shook the very foundation of binary gender society until we get rid of male and female multiplicity, we will never see a solution to discrimination against those who do not fit into the limiting categories. This turns back the AC. Also, we say AC can affect multiple living groups. For example, it affects people who are transgender, it affects people who do not identify as heterosexual, and additionally affects women. It harms women themselves, and because it extenuates the dichotomy between male and female. Then, the standard is maximizing extended well-being. 1. Phenomenal introspection for the parental pleasure and intrinsically good sinababu. 1. Looking at 11, considering the phenomenal states that are yellow experiences, one can form beliefs they are bright experiences. When considering the experience of pleasure, one can make judgments they are good experiences. One can look inward that there was more brightness in my visual field. Yellow places black. When I experience pain, I can form beliefs that things are worse. Our ability to understand and respect the experience of others commits us to utilitarianism, said Bobby too. I know that others' pleasures good and if in a pleasant moment I can say what is like when others have the experience I'm having, I must think that they are having good experiences. Their experience will have exactly the same intrinsic properties in mind, and therefore my argument that supports utilitarianism. 2. No affirmation distinction for states since their implicit approvals of actions still entail moral responsibility, sensitive for renewal. Unlike individuals, governments always face a choice between regulating third-party funding, authorizing private action, is not using that the distinction between authorized and unauthorized action because of true when the government formally forbids private action but does not fully discourage it. 3. Public policy is inherently until rights trade off the utility, the only philosophy that prevents unjust privatization. One group over the other. Waller 97. Appeals to a priority mark principles fail to account that public policy is never really until trade off between competing values. Policy makers cannot justify the inherent value conflict to the public in any philosophical sense. Data political principles are inadequate basis for policy is evident in the fact that most ideological laws have been implemented in a very utilitarian manner. Policy makers have an ethical duty to establish a plausible link between policy alternative the problem they address, and the public must be reasonably sure that the policy will do something about an existing problem. This requires util. 4. Moral uncertainty brains preventing us preventing extinction. We are highest priority. Boston 12. Moral uncertainty suggests our present way of axiology may be confused if we are uncertain, but there is a great value in preserving our ability to recognize and steer the future accordingly. Ensure there will be a future, and humanity is the best way to increase future value. To be clear, this precludes the entry because one, in order to have a stable understanding of how to combat oppression, we have to first have the ability to have a litmus test of what is fair, of what is moral and what is not moral. Otherwise, there's no way to abstract and be able to see if we are succeeding in fighting oppression. Second is more important for philosophical education. Philosophical education is uniquely key because it provides our ability to make decisions out of run. Then, next, skip the next card. Obama's political battle is key to TPP. Post fast track, it will be a huge political battle. Bennett. By passing fast track, Congress has made TPP near and complete, in which is the last line of the dispute. The TPP is not a done deal. Importance will also push lawmakers to agree with them, and it's good. Those arguments will be fierce. Republican support is uniquely key. Strong 15. McConnell reiterated his word in his potential carbons and trade deal in the Pacific Rim. They're going to need a lot of Republicans to pass this TPP. Not many Democrats are going to vote for it, so they really need Republicans on board to pass it. The other is extremely unpopular. Republican famous thing. Parental moment is key. Philip 09. It's a pro-family ideology is most useful to the right to restrict the minors' access to abortion. The popularity of parental involvement in Massachusetts due to the political capital they offer to politicians who appear to be pro-life. Nationwide polls show that a majority support parental involvement laws. TPP key to solve multiple scenarios for conflict, pivot, econ, trade, and more. Econ is 14. TPP central to America's pivot to Asia, changes to the country's commitment to emerging economies. When economic rules a global economy should follow failure would be America with forfeit to see the center of global economy. TPP people would undermine the impression of the U.S. and the Pacific Power will also take pressure off Japan and China reform. And if the domestic issue that these two countries cannot be resolved, there's no sense the U.S. can provide any steerage for the reason. And regional hegemony is key to stop nuclear war. Asia will be vulnerable to host strategic uncertainties arising from the need for new powers or any way to go and political order. South China Sea becoming more difficult. Major question about the future of South China Sea. Touching every country's fruit to the U.S. has been a guarantee of security and economic prosperity and Asia Pacific for decades. Put the card there.
Okay, ready for CX?
Yeah.
Okay. What framework do the two Ks link to?
Both.
What?
Both.
Both?
Yeah.
Okay, how do they link to the UTO framework?
Well, I think probably like structural violence and like horrible oppression.
Wait,
and
so are both the
neoliberalism.
frameworks pre-fiat or post-fiat?
I don't really think that.
Okay, let's go through the
makes
first
sense.
one. So the first one talks about how HIV trials failed. The impact of this is neocolonialism.
Right.
This
so
links to which
neocolonialism.
framework?
If you let's look at the impact card.
No. Let me get this quickly. Then the Brown, Ferguson, Hope, those cards about gender binaries. Is this? Well, first of all, where's the all?
It's a case turn
How is it a case term?
because it talks about how you are like harming your own agenda.
Okay, cool. So whose frame that links to my framework?
Yeah.
So that links only to the fem framework.
No, I would argue that probably like oppression
cool.
of these people is really bad.
So you read Dissat. I'm only defending South Africa. How does it link?
Well, the companies are in the U.S.
Nope. The companies I'm talking about. Okay, so I'm defending that HIV trials for girls in South Africa, everything's in South Africa.
Right. So
How does
these
this
aren't
link to the
South
Dissat?
African companies.
Yeah, everything's happening in South Africa.
Yeah, I understand that
How
the
do I
trials
link
are
to
happening in South Africa. If you look at the links of the K, these are international companies
No,
that originate in the US.
So these are not specific to the AAC. This is all happening with South African doctors for South African girls.
I mean, you can
everything
make that argument,
South
but these
Africa.
are
I'm
US
asking
companies.
So do you point specifically to anywhere in my evidence that says that any of these these companies are
I want you to
American?
point out one country that, like one medical company that's performing these
So,
trials that is South
wait.
African.
Okay, this is all happening in South Africa. These are South
I
African
understand.
doctors. My authors are South African. What does the U.S. have to do with any of this?
These
You said-
pharmaceutical companies.
So my question is, so I read tons of evidence that AIDS is the biggest problem where AIDS is South Africa. All of this is South Africa.
Right.
insofar as you're not winning that one card, which just says that like pharmaceutical companies are trying to exploit Africa, what's the link to the politics dissent?
I mean, I am like probably winning the link that these companies are.
What's the link to the politics dissent? Is it just that card?
It's the entire new
Okay,
colonialism.
which card is it? Can you point to the card?
Sure. Let's go up. It's the the FOSSI card, and specifically probably the FOSSI 2 card even more, which talks about how the U.S. and European countries are exporting their unethical placebo-controlled trials.
All right, let's go through these. So first, the McNeil card. What is this from? It just says HIV trials in Africa. Do you have a country, a date, a study?
Yeah, so this is a study that occurred in Zambia in 2011.
Okay. Do you have any evidence that this would be the same in South Africa?
Well, unless you have proof that like the wages in South Africa are like significantly
then let's
higher
look
than
to the
Zambia, then the
fossil.
warrant
Okay.
stand.
Starting 5 minutes of prep now. I'm gonna be reading new cards.
Can you send them?
Yeah, I don't know like if this is in order it comes.
Alright, just
Attach
send
the
them.
one and see as well.
What?
Do you want to reply all and attach
Yeah.
the one and see again?
I forwarded it to you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, the doc's kind of disjointed, but
I suppose it undermines my clipping deterrence if you know that I'm not looking at the doc. That's one of the reasons that I do like to make my chains, just to keep it from on.
cool. Okay. Like it's good. Okay. So
Did you send it?
yeah.
Alright, just 1 second. Oh. It did not.
Let me know. Just keep refreshing.
Are you sure you sent it to me too?
I think. Nope. Sorry. Alright, send.
Yay, 1 second. Cool. Alright, ready?
Yes. Everyone good?
Yeah, starting on the AC, right?
Starting on the AC. I can see the YouTube framework. I'm still down the strength link because the fact that I have the biggest impact on our from the future HIV depends on the outcomes analysis, analysis, or key demographic HIV epidemiology because they represent a huge portion of new cases. This means I saw a greater number of HIV infections among the adult population in the future. Comfort. Globally, 1/4 of HIV infections occur between the ages 15 to 24, more than half new infections occur, and people under 25 to 2004, they're estimated 10 million people aged 15 to 24 with HIV infection worldwide, estimated 7,000 infections. New day, the majority of these infections are required sub-Saharan Africans. So reporting said the HIV infection rate of girls 3 to 6 times that of boys. Same age group reducing HIV infection in girls under 18 is critically important for altering the epidemic trajectory in this region for directly benefiting young women. This is undoubtedly a priority public health imperative. Then you can burst extend the Kareem and Harrison card. These are going to completely take on McNeil because the fact that McNeil only talks about Zambia. These talk about South Africa. One, these are South African authors themselves writing about their own clinics in South Africa to benefit South African girls. This has nothing to do with American companies. These are all South African people, and this has nothing to do with benefiting America. It means there's literally no link to our things. Also, all of these post-2011 Kareem and Harrison and Takaka from like 2015, 2012, these post-2011, even if there's a small chance this was happening in 2011, it's not specific to this country, 1, and 2, these are by South African people, only benefiting South Africans. It would make no sense that like South African countries would be benefiting the US. This is clearly just for South Africans. 2, fourth, I'm challenging the asymmetrical power relationships that are occurring right now. Then, on the Fozzie 3 card about how it harms those who don't get the drug cost by the same card, the one in the salty that makes it everyone who participates gets counseling and preventive treatment, even if they don't actually get clinically trialed. Means I saw none references specific. This is taming for her, and this thing takes out the link to the neo-colonialism card. So this means I've extended my offense, taken out that. Now let's go to the next, like the gender binary king. First, no link, just because of the fact that I say that we need to empower women doesn't mean that we don't need to empower like other groups. Doesn't mean that I don't believe in gender binary. It just means that we're focusing on women. Also saying that these preventative measures only help men and not women doesn't mean that I don't help other groups. Literally only means that the app focuses on this. She doesn't give specific arguments for why that focus is a bad thing. This is a link of omission. Don't look to link of omissions for 3 reasons. 1, because out times 2, this means there's literally no way the app can account for every single thing. Second, it harms argumentation because the fact that people try to include as much as possible without going in depth. And third, this prevents clash on very specific issues by just pointing out other things people didn't run. And link to an academic opposition to essentialist policy results in highly conservative refusal to condemn abuse of vulnerable groups mass bomb. The phenomenon is one of we see people deeply committed to the good of women and men developing their sake of themselves progress, but understanding racism correctly argue the concept of development is a evaluative concept requiring a normative argument, eventually skewing normative argument and taking a position that converts with a position of reaction and present under the banner of their fashionable position to essentially march Asian taboos, luxury, payment, husbands, sexual deprivation, unequal healthcare. I do want the death supposed to life, most binary, natural freedom, slavery, and hunger, ignorance, knowledge. This means that the only way that we can actually challenge prejudice is a shared notion of humanity, because by defining us by our relationships to others in a shared notion of humanity, this prevents us from oppressing people in the same group. Then, on her framework first, on the bottom card, she misinterprets Boston descendants as being a prima facie reason to avoid extinction, even in the face of moral uncertainty, e.g. whether or not detail. It does not say that we should disregard more probable impacts in the face of even the most likely extinction scenario. Means the dissent is literally no link. I have nothing to do with the U.S. All my authors are just talking about things happening in South Africa. This means that because of the fact that I have a far more probable impact under YouTube, because of the fact that I'm getting American people, literally irrelevant to the U.S. And because of the fact that we can still look at policy options while examining our discourse coming out of the Hope Card. We can always do both. Always going to be better to do both because the impacts of the AC means that there's also like a risk of harm. Thus, affirm.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Oh wait, actually. What am I doing? How much time do I have left?
35.
What are you perming if there's no chaos?
Okay, like, I'm just trying to avoid you making an argument in the next speech that this is, like, an independent reason, so I'm just saying, like, even if I was wrong, even though I say there's, like, no link in the impact term, we could always still just, like, examine our discourse while doing the AC, the same way that, like, we can do the same way that, like, okay.
Okay, so the order is going to be starting on the AIDS impacts coming off the AC, then it's going to be on colonialism, gender binary, and that's it. Alright. Everyone ready? Starting on the AIDS impact, there's several extinction impacts with it, and if I'm winning adequate strength of link back to this is going to prove that this is going to be like adequate to affirm it anyway. I'm probably winning on strength of link off the AIDS impact anyway because even though the McNeil card specifically talks about zombie, the warrants are still applicable to South Africa because the warrants talk about the fact that the amount that the foreign scientists are paying people in African countries are more than the amount that the people are being paid in these countries, unless she can show proof that like these stipends that she's providing people are less than their actual wages that they would get. Otherwise, that she is still biting, that she still has a significant chance that these women are not going to be taking the pills and that because they only signed up for the study in the first place because they wanted to get the money. Additionally, she's conceding a link turn under her framework. Actually, just like a link turn agenda, which is that she's propping up the prostitution business because people give their pills to prostitutes in order to which encourages sex slavery. This is also functions as terminal defense in her framework because if people are not taking the drugs at all, this means that there's not they're not going to be effective. They're not going to be treated. They're not going to be effectively treated, which means that there's a significant loss to strength of link based on the Miss warrants and the McNeil card, which means that the AIDS warrant is not going to be significant. Also, it doesn't have way back to me because I have a conceded extinction impact of the neocolonialism Okay, so first, now let's go into the colonialism. Fossey 1 is really good on this issue. You can call for this after the thread. It specifically says international pharmaceutical companies experiment with the lives of South African patients. That one does talk about international companies, and these are not companies from South Africa. Even if your authors are from South Africa, that just means your authors are ignorant. Your authors don't know about the things that are happening to these people, and they don't know, or maybe they're not informed about new colonialism. Obviously, there has to be someone who falls for this new colonialist trick in order for it to be perpetuated. Your authors are not the authority on new colonialism, but this specifically says that international pharmaceutical companies are moving into South Africa, and it specifically talks about how this business is valued at $329 million. This money is not going into South African homes. It's going to international pharmaceutical companies, and it's increasing their power. It's increasing their power over the lives of the people in South Africa. And additionally, you're conceding the argument that poverty and illiteracy make it possible for human rights violations to occur, which is a direct turn on your framework. Even if I'm learning that losing the rest of the link toward the human rights violations that result from the poverty and illiteracy in these clinical trials in South Africa, specifically turn back your AC because these people are being exploited. This is a 100% strength of link. Fossey 2 doesn't matter. They're probably placebo trials because that's how they test AIDS drugs, but I already have a really strong link. So next, let's go to Nkrumah. Nkrumah is practically conceded. It specifically says that neocolonialism and imperialism in its final stage controls all these impacts because the result of neocolonialism is that we have a lot of limited wars, based on like proxy wars, like in Vietnam, because countries have indirect economic hold over the various countries that lead to limited war between these countries over resources, which ultimately will collapse into nuclear war. This is a conceded war for extinction. Even if on to the gender binary dissad. All of these arguments sound like apologies, but not actual responses. The only argument that this is attempt to turn, which is that like the way that we have to challenge like, this shared notion of humanity, but this the shared notion of humanity, but this does not answer the fact that when you're not targeting a shared notion of humanity, you specifically break humanity apart, which means that we can't have this shared notion. This turns back this card, even if you like, and also this doesn't function adequately enough as a term because we're only looking under the util framework now, which means that even if you're winning the shared notion of humanity card, it still doesn't control the util impact because it's clearly bigger impact coming from the neo-colonialism card, which means there's no risk of me losing this round because I'm the only one who controls the strongest impact, and I'm the only one who controls the strongest impact. Then you make these theoretical arguments about why link of omission is bad, but this isn't a link of omission. It's based on the fact that you do talk about feminism, not that you don't talk about these other groups. The fact that you talk about feminism specifically would link you in no matter what. Extending argument that talks about how this is really dangerous because it talks about women's experience versus men's experience, and it separates them. Then extending that the gender identification becomes beyond the gender binary or then problematized, which hurts the identity of a lot of other people, which means that a lot of people are facing structural violence over this. They're being isolated from the rest of society, which means that this has clear util impacts here. Also, you make this argument like you don't believe in binary only focusing on women, but it doesn't matter what you personally believe because you're advocating by focusing on feminism, by talking about the differences between women and men in terms of the exposure that they're getting to these HIV medications, and specifically biting in. So you can't like unbite by saying you don't mean that, then say, can you say like you're not grouping them, but you specifically are grouping them because you talk about women versus men. You're talking about the people who are getting access to the HIV medication, the people who aren't getting access to the HIV medication. This argument about the only way to challenge the shared notion of humanity is clearly outweighed by the Hope card, which talks about it's clearly outweighed by the Ferguson card, which talks about like the deconstruction of gender. We have to step back from the opposition of male and female, which means in order to have a shared notion of humanity, this is a preclusionary argument because we have to reject the dualism first and foremost, and that we could never have a shared notion of humanity. The way the round breaks down is this. I have the strongest impacts based on strength of link off the neo-colonialism. Call for the Fosse 1 card, it's a really good link. Also, I'm probably winning off the gender binary as well, which is structural violence impacts. You don't have like any real probability based on the McNeil card, so your strength of link off of these like really minor, like you might stop some AIDS impacts, doesn't really help, especially because those are only adolescents, so it's not a huge impact. So I'm outweighing magnitude, probability, strength of link. There's tons of places about it.
Alright, starting 53 seconds. It's gonna be like ACK, like kind of starting with an overview that I guess could flow like on the top of the AC. Okay, is everyone ready? Okay. Right now, millions of girls in South Africa are super unempowered and are dying of AIDS because all the treatments are focused on men. A group of South African authors has found ways to both empower girls and change the trajectory of this horrible disease which is killing millions. This is the strongest link to util because of the fact that it is one, the most probable is it's occurring right now in the status quo, and second, because of the fact that I have 100% solvency with my app. The biggest problem is that the Fosse card this is the way in which they're doing it. The intent is not money. Insofar as she doesn't have specific cards about my authors, she loses. Then the next big issue is that she drops the perm on her like floating K about this issue of discourse. I say specifically that we can both endorse the discourse of like rejecting gender binaries while doing the advocacy of the AC. This is really important because it's a step in the right direction. According to like the discourse in the binary case, she would say that we shouldn't like pass, for instance, like gay marriage for gay people because that doesn't recognize that like there's other forms of sexual identity. Even if gay marriage isn't perfect, it's still going to be better than not doing. It's still going to be better than like not doing anything. So she can criticize, but the app is still taking huge steps for women that are dying and then girls that are dying of the HIV epidemic and that are in asymmetrical power relationships. We can do this while we're examining the discourse. Goes completely conceded means that I solve for literally all of the impact coming off this. Means that I link it to the YouTube framework best because I have way stronger strength of link rather than the Fossey card about neoliberalism, and because I take out the impact coming off the second K insofar as she concedes the perm. Also, perm goes completely conceded. Also, just because it's also you can extend the so basically the round breaks down very simply. The app is a huge impact occurring right now. This it's occurring right now, and it's occurring exactly right now. We can't look to neoliberalism which occurred in hundreds of years. There's been colonialism for hundreds of years, and yet she's not proving that this is like happening right now. But also the link of the probability is far more conclusive. Thus, Goodbye.
the 2AR. She extends Bostrom. She claims it's conceded. It's not, but you don't extend your answer in the 2AR. Then she makes a reversibility argument. She says scope and magnitude under util, extinction first. No other weighing is done on impact calc. This is the only impact calc you have. I'm inclined to say, look, it's a util criterion. Yes, extinction is pretty big, but at the end of the day, I'm going to look to probability as well, unless you've explicitly framed it as this is my criterion. Otherwise, I would see this as kind of a shift in the 2R to say, no, my criterion is just about extinction. So I take these to be weighing arguments. I don't see them as exclusive of AF offense, but those are pretty good reasons that we'll end up looking to risk of an extinction impact in this debate. I don't love that because I think that I'm persuaded by the high probability advantage coming out of the AF, but you don't do any explicit work on that other than saying she's too focused on magnitude, but you don't provide any real ethical warranting or any impact calculus to say why probability should come first on that level. And second, I think she wouldn't say you're not high probability. So the McNeil evidence, I don't have a really great response to in the 2AR.
Was it extended in the 2A?
Oh yeah.
I thought that just the two Fawzi cards were, because I thought she dropped McNeil because it wasn't specific to South Africa, and then she just went for the two Fawzi ones.
No, McNeil is extended. The thing is that they sound similar because both your number one answers to him were not about the AF, not about South Africa, and so she said, yes, it is applicable to South Africa, but that argument could have been about McNeil or Fawzi, so I could see how you would get confused there. But 2R extends McNeil and says the warrants are still applicable to South Africa. You need to show that this does not occur in South Africa. You have a burden of proof, like there's a distinction between what my authors are talking about and what happens in South Africa. She makes this argument about wages. I didn't really understand that part. Yes I did. The next part she makes a lot more sense than, she says needs to show less than actual wages. I didn't know what that meant. But the next part is, they're taking the pills only because they signed up to get the money, and they get them just to sustain their livelihood, but they end up not taking any of the drugs or treatment at all.
Okay. So do you not all the arguments on the Fawzi cards about why these all my authors that are South African doctors and based in South Africa are making the programs intended to empower women and to find a drug to empower them? Why don't they apply to me? Because it seems like all of that's the
I
same
believe
thing.
that that's the intention of your authors and that the program is supposed to do good, but her evidence says that at the end of the day they don't go through with the studies, that the women who sign up for the studies don't actually follow through with
so
the
then you
treatment.
also don't buy because the last card also talks about how everyone who is in the program gets preventative counseling and treatment regardless of if they do the clinical trial stuff, they still get treatment and preventative counseling. And I cross-blend that too.
Yeah, so I have that line on the Fawzi evidence here, just but they all get care and counseling. But I think this evidence is pretty good that they will do the minimum possible to get the money and not be on a regimented drug schedule. And from my understanding, that's what it involves to be in HIV and AIDS treatment, is that you have to have continual treatment, you have to go back. The fact that there is access to care doesn't change the fact that they won't go.
Okay.
Right? They're not mandated.
So even though I have specific solvency on this plan that says treat having these.
It's dropped in the 2AR, and I think it's relevant to impoverished African people who go sign up for clinical studies. And you have the burden to show that the conditions in South Africa are sufficiently different than what she's described. Is it potentially problematic for us to accept evidence about one African country and apply it to another? Maybe I should.
Yeah, that's what I was okay.
But absent a reason not to see why it applies to the app, it seems to me that it does.
Okay.
So I end up voting on colonialism stuff.
So I have a question. Can I ask that?
Yeah, go ahead.
So do you not buy the weighing that my authors it's far more so first that AIDS is killing people right now and that her impacts aren't happening right now, but then also that because of the fact that my authors are South African doctors and know about the girls, it's more probable that they would be right on these judgments and that they are
I'm
more.
inclined to just say, I mean, the same way you want me to say high probability, all your evidence is specific to the aff, and I'm inclined to do that, except that you have not addressed the line by line. Those arguments are just extensions out of the 1AR. She has said, if your authors don't acknowledge these impacts, then they are ignorant. They might be well-meaning, but they don't know what's happening to these people who sign up for their programs. They're not well-informed. Neo-colonialism conditions them because they work for these big companies that tell them to go in. You know, there are a bunch of arguments in the 2NR that you're just extending through here. There's one other thing I wanted to say about that. So when you're making these arguments, high probability, specific to the aff, and the only way that I want to look to evidence comparison, even though you didn't do very much in the 2R. So that's why I ended up looking at her McNeil card. And card is, actually quite good. It says that for this particular trial that only 30% had ended up taking the drug at all, which seems to cut across aff solvency quite a bit. So when I take that into account with the magnitude stuff, it paints a decent picture for the neg. Good debate, y'all.
Thanks for judging.
Cool aff, by the way.
Thank you.
Just
Yeah.
question. So is that McNeil evidence that's linked to the colonialism stuff?
No. It was the Fossey cards. So she did contest the link to colonialism, but she dropped the case defense that would make that step outweigh. No, it's not.
I didn't see it, so I'm just asking. Is the link to colonialism that they don't like?
I didn't get to that part because but the argument is that a lot of the companies that sponsor these trials are really exploitative. They, really just want to get these people's money. These people don't know how to read. They don't, and they. Yeah.
No, I'm not. I'm processing.
If the aff were if you had the Rescher card in the aff about probability, if it were toe to toe on that game, I'm thinking, of course, the colonialism impact is silly.
Do you think if she executes the same arguments better, that she can win the debate, or do you think she's got to do additional work?
No, I think she's right there. It's just the framing stuff on Bostrom. If you flip it and say probability, or at least say they're both equally relevant, risk of colonialism. The other thing is there's no impact defense on that colonialism card, where she's basically like, this is far-fetched, but there's